I had a guy on Jamie Metzl yesterday, a scientist who scared the shit out of me, talking about China. He's talking about China. We were talking about China amassing naval power.
Oh.
China's taking over tech companies and how huge they're getting and how much influence they have over their people as opposed to the way we do it.
Well, he's not wrong.
No.
He's not, I can't spot the lie in what you just said, but I mean, look, there's so much we can talk about, but if you think about it, just in the past handful of months, there was this SolarWinds hack, right, by the Russians. So the Russians go in, they hack into a company called SolarWinds. That is an IT management software company that happens to be fairly deep into government organizations, agencies, Treasury, and a variety of others throughout the U.S. government. And they're also into parts of the intel community, Defense Department, and a lot of commercial sectors. So anyway, the Russians figure this out. Now, around about December or January, Microsoft, identified this as a problem. And I think it was the head of Microsoft said, this looks like the most sophisticated attack we've ever seen. So this is December, January timeframe. And they're still trying to figure out the depth of this hack by Russians. At the same time, and going back months and months and months and months before, the Chinese had been engaged in a more sophisticated attack that, while everyone is focused on what's going on and so fully aware that we got problems, right, from nation states out there who don't like us, everybody's talking about SolarWinds, and now it's they've just now released information about the Chinese attack against Microsoft Exchange servers, running the Exchange email systems, and this thing is enormous. And so the Chinese, we've been so focused for 4 years on the Russians, and they're out there to cause us all sorts of problems. So we should be focused on them. But it's China that's the biggest problem. And so this guy is absolutely right. Jamie's right.
It was terrifying.
I'm on this amazing Rocky story with myself. It's in my head. Nobody else is watching this movie but me. It's in my head. This is Rocky. This is the comeback. This is exactly what I saw in the movie. And I'm going to come back better than ever. I'm going to be 41. My body's going to be ripped up. I'm going to be about 8% body fat. And then I'm ready. Ready for what, Kevin? I don't fucking know.
Ready to be better than you were before.
Hey, I don't
happened in Italy right before World War II, but
so this was 33 was the first documented.
That is the earliest one I can talk about. Yeah,
There's something that predates that?
You could infer that.
You could infer that.
Yeah.
So this 33 one you said was in Italy?
Yeah, Magenta. So it's I'm bad at geography. I think that's like a Lombardy region. It's like northwest Italy.
And what's the story behind it?
So basically it looked like it crashed, right? The original shape most likely was like a lenticular disc-like craft, with like two dinner plates.
What
right?
does lenticular mean?
So like two dinner plates, smushed together, right? The hump, and there's like a bubble on top.
Like the classic
saucer. Like that.
Like that. Okay.
But it looks like when it hits, the edges broke off, so it became this like bell or acorn shaped thing. And there was nothing in it. It was like just an artifact. There was no biological remnants, if you will. So it's so funny because the Italians were so confused, they actually called up the Germans and they were like, is this one of your Wunderwaffe? Like, what the hell just crashed in northern Italy? Mussolini, and this is all publicly available information because some Italian researchers found all these original documents that some people were sitting on for years in Italy. They put a gag order on the press, etc. And Mussolini asked the Germans to come down. And of course, the Germans came down and they were like, that is not ours, but let's look at it together. So that's kind of perhaps a tertiary reason the kind of Axis powers got together. I'm not saying that's like the reason, but I think the Italians and the Germans were so intrigued with what they found from like an artifact perspective. There was at least some scientific and military collaboration during the war, the details of which I'm not sure of, but I know people that know that specific event that are currently still intel officers within this program in detail. But
So was there witnesses to the crash?
But it's China that's the biggest problem. And so this guy is absolutely right. Jamie's right.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Listen to what he was talking about, the way he was explaining how they have this plan. I think he said 2049 to be the global superpower of the world and essentially take the place of what America used to be.
Yeah,
they do it their way.
And they do it their way, which means we're going to bypass all the costs and the heavy lift of research and development over the years, and we're just going to steal everything.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it for decades. So people think, oh, China, it's a problem. We've talked about this before. This idea that perhaps this is just something relatively new or it's popped up during the previous administration of Trump. And honest God's truth is it's been going on for decades. And they decided that that's how they're going to get to the top of the food chain, is by stealing shit, because it's a lot easier to hoover up everything and then reverse engineer it. And the technology has made it even easier, right? It used to be old school. They'd go out and recruit somebody. They'd find some Chinese American working for a company here in the States. They'd appeal to sort of, you got to help the motherland, and they would. And that was the old school way of doing it. But, cyber theft it's incredible what they're able to do. And this latest attack, while they're still trying to sort out the mess, right?
So when they do this,
in detail, but
was there witnesses to the crash or some sort of an understanding that something had crash landed and then they discovered it?
Yeah, I forget the precise discovery. I don't know if it was like local police officers or local farmers found it in the field, something like that. I don't want to misspeak. I assume some of the Italian researchers might have some fact witnesses that can orally say, "Oh yeah, my great grandfather found it" or something like that. But I don't remember.
What was the scale of this vehicle?
It was probably like 20 feet by 10 feet, something like that. Not super huge, but kind of big.
Do they think that this was a drone? Do they think that this was occupied?
There was nothing in it. So if it was piloted, if you will, by some sentience, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. So.
So what happened to that vehicle?
So we knew where it was being stored at a particular location after the crash, and then the military came in and we grabbed it towards the end of the war, 1944, 1945, because, like I said, Pope Pius XII already kind of let FDR know.
Why'd the Pope get involved? And the way I was looking at things, like you put an extra gear in my step that day. I was like, oh, I love being around people like you.
My guy.
People around you, people like you, you're going for shit all the time, and it's infectious. It's like you give off energy. And when people are around you, they want to get shit done too. It's
contagious.
Hustle. Yes,
it's contagious.
Yes.
It's not just me putting it out. I think that the last time I was here, our conversation was such a great conversation because there was we both had point of views, right? And when we shared the point of views, you elevated the other person's POV. Like when we were talking and I was telling you why I live the way I live, why I am the way I am, you springboarded. Then you said, yeah, because Kev, for me, I've been doing this, and we had this yin and yang thing going, and it drove the conversation. I told you, before we jumped on, one of the best interviews that I've ever done, and from a feedback perspective, with people that just loved what the discussion was, loved the tone of the interview, the things that was said, felt inspired, motivated after. It was just great all around for me. Checked all the boxes.
It was for me too, and I got a bunch of great responses from my friends.
Is that capitalism? Do you go to Washington, D.C. and you go, oh, there's more millionaires there than there are in any other part of the world in the suburbs around Washington, D.C.? Is that because there's great big factories and they're making so much stuff that everyone wants to buy? It's like, no, that's because our centralized federal government spends over $6 trillion a year. And where does that money go? It goes into all the people who are connected to government. And why is it outside of New York City? Is it because in New York City they have great big factories where they're making all the things that everyone wants? It's like, no. And that's not because of capitalism. That's because Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, and now it's just this phony casino Wall Street money. So it's everybody, all the people at the top who are making all of this money, they're not making it. It'd be one thing if you're if you're like John D. Rockefeller before he got colluded with the government, and you created Standard Oil,
Right.
and now there's this big oil company, and you're making the country richer by this. But they're not making the country richer. They're extracting wealth out of the rest of the population. It's all just extracted. I mean, literally, the federal spending is extracting wealth out of people by taxing them and then spending it. It's literally taking the money from people who work and giving it to politically connected people. And then the Wall Street money is just printing money and then making your dollar less valuable. So just in another way, extracting wealth from the people. And this is basically why we live in this populist moment right now, where so many people are so freaking furious at the establishment. Because
It was for me too, and I got a bunch of great responses from my friends. That's when I know it's good, when I get friends, and my friends were all like pretty unanimous. They're like, "That is a motivational motherfucker.
Wow,
like that dude gets shit done." When people hear stuff like you, like someone who's excited about life, excited about doing things, there's something about that it's fuel. It's fuel for we need that. Everyone needs that.
I don't even. This is not a cheesy segue. All right, this just makes sense from what you just said. What you just said is the reason why I did the decision. You said people need that, it's fuel.
Yes.
Right? I feel that in today's time, what people are most selfish with is information. Nobody wants to give information. You got to ask for it. If you ask for it, then all right, maybe I'll tell you some stuff, but it's a search and find.
You mean real information?
Information about how to get to success. That's the want from everybody across the board on some level.
Right.
Okay. Everybody's success is different. This doesn't mean fame and stars. I'm not talking about that level of success for everything. I'm saying whatever your version of success is, to get to it, information from someone that's done it or that's partaken in it in some degree will only add to the value of your journey. It's only going to make it easier. It's not to say that you got to do what they said, but with that information, you're able to process it, maybe use it, maybe not.
Right.
But you got it.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do. I said, yo, I got a life. I got a hell of a life that I've lived, full of ups, downs, potholes, cobblestone, speed bumps, flat road, U-turns, some smack brick walls that I ran into, some revolving doors of back and forth. And through it all, my mental has only gotten better, because I feel like I've been in the mental gym, the mental fitness that coincides with life. It should get better. You should get wiser. You should get smarter. You should be able to make better decisions. And all of my decisions came from the massive amount of fuck ups. And I can now share those fuck ups. I can now share the rights and the wrongs and the way that I handle all of the things that I've done. And people can just take that information and go, wow, I never looked at it like that.
What gives them a better view of the landscape?
Yeah.
Especially when someone like you,
FDR, no.
Why'd the Pope get involved? Because it's in Italy?
Well, interestingly enough, there's like a whole history of human intelligence prior to World War II, and old money, the Vatican, the Italian mob, kind of the old country boys did a lot of informal intelligence collection for the U.S., and there's probably some books you can read on it, but it's really interesting. Human intelligence collection wasn't really formalized until the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, which became the CIA in 1947. You had Paul Mellon and all these other affluent guys of all these old money families that basically created the CIA. So that's probably the reason why.
So this thing that was recovered, this was the first documented one that the United States had access to?
I can't get into if it was the first or not, but it was an early one.
It gives them a better view of the landscape.
Yeah.
Especially when someone like you almost seem like an unattainable person. Like how does he do that? How is he doing that? How does this guy go from Philadelphia to be one of the biggest movie stars in the world? How does he become one of the biggest stand-up comedy stars ever? How the fuck do you do that? You almost seem like an alien, to people on the outside. But then when they hear you talk about your real life and talk about these fuck-ups and talk about these successes and talk about the lessons that you've learned, feed, man, that's fuel for folks in a way that nothing else is, because there's a lot of people that are bullshitting online. There's a lot of these motivational speakers that haven't done shit. And it's a weird thing. It's like they're trying to give you motivation by like sort of reciting things that they think are going to work.
That they think
Yeah.
you want to hear.
But they haven't done anything. But someone who's done something, when you say it, people are going to listen. They're going to go, oh, and you're so honest about everything, which is that's everything to people, because when you're pure, when your words are pure, people take them right in. They come right in. There's no like, oh, this guy's kind of fucking selling me something. Oh, this guy's
I'm not
kind of full
selling
of shit. Yeah, exactly.
I got nothing to sell. I had a talk with Chase, JP Morgan Chase are partners of mine, and we were doing this. We're doing this thing called Advancing Black Pathways, right? Where we're trying to cure financial literacy in the Black community. We're on like year number 2 right now, right? And there was a conversation where, they wanted to have said bankers go and talk to the kids in the inner city. And I was like, you can't send a white man that works for JP Morgan Chase to the inner city of said community, hood, whatever, to talk to these young black kids that has no idea about the life that the black kids are living. I said, what you need is people that have actually come from these environments. They have made it out of the environments and now understand how money works. Because now when I talk to you, I'm not talking to you with hypotheticals, and I'm not preaching to you about what you should do and what you got to do. I said, I'm telling you what I did that didn't work. I'm telling you how I fucked off money, and I'm telling you what I didn't know.